Oh,
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dead Funny Podcast. I'm your host, Chris. Joined today, God, can't talk, is my co-host, Kelsey and JoJo.
Hello.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Life is good.
Yeah? There
Life's
you go.
good. Full of joy.
So,
Running on 3 hours of sleep.
I'm a little upset with JoJo. I'm not gonna lie. I gotta start off with some beef with JoJo.
okay.
Ooh.
Jesus.
Due to your recommendation, I decided to sit down and watch Peacemaker the entire season. Show is so dumb, but it was so entertaining. It was entertaining enough that it made me come back to
it's really
each
fucking
episode. That opening alone made me just
Yeah.
not want to fucking watch it, dude. That opening alone, I was like, no fucking way, dude.
I listen to that song all the time now.
Yes. Oh my god. So yeah, I mean, the first 2 episodes were kind of slow. That's normal with any fucking show you go to watch. The entire plot of the show is just fucking stupid, honestly.
Really silly.
But it's got its moments where I'm just like, okay, that was pretty fucking funny. So it's got its moments. It's weird, dude, to watch a show where they're taking a character from a movie using the same actor in the show, and he's not even my favorite character. He's not my least liked character. I actually like the fucking hero that won't, or not the hero, but the wannabe vigilante, I guess I should say, that hangs out with him all the fucking time, that is infatuated. I like him more than I actually like Peacemaker. Yeah, he's fucking great. He cracks me up. But yeah, it's an interesting show, and it actually has an actor in it that I haven't seen in forever. The guy that plays the guy cop, like the chick's partner. That guy,
really?
I haven't seen him in anything in a while, but he used to be in like fucking everything. Like the moment I saw his face, I was like, it's that guy. It's that fucking guy. Yeah.
He's a big that guy.
Yes.
He's in a lot of things just as like a dude.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And it's actually funny that we're saying that, because I was actually looking at like some old, like, because obviously Super Bowl and everything just happened. I was looking like at some older like sport, things that I used to watch, and it popped up like Kevin Hart roasting sports announcers, because he's fucking famous. So he gets on with these sports announcers and talks shit to them. And somebody was saying something about Kevin. It's one of the guys that he goes back and forth with a lot, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, you're no one knows who you are. Don't act like you go through life being like followed by paparazzi." And he's all like, "Oh, I'm Kevin Hart. Everybody knows who I am. You know who you are?" He's like, "You ain't famous at all. You're snap that finger famous. You're like, oh, that's that one guy. That's who you are. You're snap finger. Like, oh, I don't know exactly who it is." I was like, that's a fucking good burn. That is a good fucking burn. You're snap your finger famous. Like, it's that one guy, but I don't know, but I might know. I was like, no fucking way, dude. Oh my gosh.
I have no idea what that dude's name is, but he is.
Nope. But you've seen him in a lot of shit. I literally was watching and I was like, holy shit, I've seen that guy in so much stuff, and I feel like he's been gone for a while. Oh man. Very interesting tones throughout the entire show. I'll say that. Especially with all the KKK stuff that's going on. So that was very interesting.
As bad guys.
As bad guys. Yes.
Baker's dad is a white supremacist supervillain.
Supervillain. To the supervillain. Let's make sure we capitalize the supervillain part there. He has an entire outfit.
Show, ultimately.
Yeah. You know how, like, basically, whoever thought of Ku Klux Klan must have been a fucking fan of D&D, because they have all these dumbass retarded names like fucking Grand Wizard.
And Wizards.
Yeah, the Ultimate White Dragon or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, that's what he is, and he has an outfit dedicated to that as well. So
yeah. This show about an extremely obscure superhero. They found an even more obscure villain character. Yeah, who works perfectly in it. Like it, but
I will say, the trailer that I saw for the show, there was one scene in it that made me go, okay, you know what? I'm going to sit down and watch it. JoJo's recommended it. I'm going to sit down and watch it. That same scene, by far, was still the best part of the entire show for me. And it's when he's arguing with the old neighbor, and the old neighbor goes, what is your catalog of villains? He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, Batman, he's got a catalog of villains like the Joker, da-da-da-da-da. And then fucking, he's all like, you're not a real superhero if you don't have a catalog of villains. And he just drops his fucking bags, turns around, he's like, you wanna know what my catalog of villains is? 6 feet fucking under, because they're all fucking dead. That's where my catalog of villains is. And he goes, Batman doesn't kill. He's like, because Batman's a pussy. I was like, oh shit! Oh shit! And he's all like, Batman's a fucking pussy. You know how many people he's indirectly killed with the fact that he locks that stupid fucking clown up and he just gets out and fucking murders people again? He's like, put me in Gotham. He'd be done. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, he's kind of got a point though. I'm not gonna lie. He's kind of got a point though. Oh my god. I was like, no fucking way. So I was watching a trailer for it. It's like, Batman's a fucking pussy. And I was like, I'm watching it. I gotta see this now. Like, I gotta see this interaction now. So, yeah. It is an interesting show. It's a good show, though. It's definitely worth the watch. I'll definitely be watching season 2. But I watched it and I was like, god damn it. Like, every time I see the opener, it's one of those, like, it's a train wreck where you can't look away. Like, you have to watch the opener.
It's very compelling.
It's very compelling. And
look at someone different each time and see them dancing.
The entire it's an entire dancing opening. If you ever want to see John Cena in full Peacemaker outfit dancing, yes, it's an entire opener. And once again, the show, for anybody that's interested, is directed by James Gunn, by the way, or written by James Gunn. So
yeah, he wrote the whole thing himself. He directed part of it, at least.
So it's like James Gunn has been the main person that's been knocking these fucking movies out of the park. So therefore, the show's got at least good writing behind it. And every time I'm watching that open, I'm just like, fucking JoJo. Like, you're the reason I'm here watching this shit right now.
You're welcome. It's pretty great.
Oh my god.
Apparently, it wasn't like anyone told him to do it. They didn't like greenlight it and then he did it. He just was bored and wrote it.
Yep.
They said, hey, I wrote this, can we make it? And then they're like, okay.
Yeah, you made us so much money with Suicide Squad.
It turned out really good. Yes.
Oh man, yeah, you made us so much money with Suicide Squad, might as well.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that being said, so I do have something I got to get to here, and that's because I like to be open with information that we talk about, especially if it's something that I don't know much about. And we had a conversation a while ago, and I keep meaning to bring this up, and I keep fucking forgetting. So we talked about comedians, and we're talking about specifically Chris D'Elia and the scandals he's going through. So I did my deep dive, because like I said, if this is like a weird fucking thing, I'm not obviously going to support him. So I'm very big into seeing what he had to say, seeing what all his stuff is, then seeing what his or the people against him are also saying and bringing up. Most of it has been situations, most of it, once again, not all of it, most of it has been situations where the women have come out and said, look, it wasn't like anything like crazy. I felt uncomfortable. Still not good. The main thing that is damning is that he was sexually texting a minor. Mm-hmm. Now, here's where the problem is. Where he was at and where the minor lives, technically, legally, it wasn't a minor in that state. Because 17 is the legal consenting age. Now, this is where my problem is with it. It's still gross to me. It doesn't matter. Yeah, right. That's still fucking disgusting to me.
Not okay.
18 is that fucking cutoff point. Because the way I look at it is, that's my 17-year-old daughter talking to a 30-something-year-old man just because the state says it's legal when the entire rest of the country says no. I'm not okay with it. So, no.
And also, there's no way a 17-year-old is making a good decision. Like, the power and this, like, the knowledge dynamic there, there's no way that's healthy. Like, it's almost impossible for that to be a healthy anything.
Right. I don't know that he has ever technically, legally committed a crime. But that's not the line I have to draw to say, he's kind of a creep that I don't want to, like...
Right, exactly.
It's not like I thought he was funny to begin, like... Alright, in that episode of Workaholics I saw him in, but, like...
Right.
Not like I was a fan before and that.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm right behind you on that one. It was just somebody that hung out with comedic circles, and there were specific aspects that were funny to me where he would be on a podcast. One of my favorite things that I loved that he did was, like, he would be on a podcast with Brian Collin a lot. And I like Brian Collin, even though he's got, some things out there as well. And every time Brian Collin, because they have this podcast called Fighter and the Kid, and it's with this Brandon Schaub, who's a now comic but used to be an MMA fighter. And so he's from both worlds for me, so I like him a lot. and they'll go back and forth. But Brian Collin and Crystalia have like, you know, an actual like, you know, close relationship. And so every time Brian Collin will like interrupt him, he'll go, "Oops, see, you bring Daddy onto a podcast, and I'm here. I'm trying to give you a fucking nugget." And then you decide to cut Daddy off whenever Daddy's trying to deliver you gold. Like, it's just so funny. So it's always, they make fun of it so much every time. Oops! Like, he'll be in the middle of talking, and the best part, he was saying a sentence. I can't remember what it was. And his last word was that. And then Brian Callen just completely interrupts him to say something else because it just popped up on his mind because that's how he is. And fucking Christian said, "Oops! I'm sorry! Was I done talking? Oops, no, I wasn't. What sentence ends in that? Nothing. 0 of them." Like, and it's fucking hilarious because it's all comedy. It's just all meant to be fucking funny. That's the extent. Like, I've never seen any of his specials or anything like that. So, like I said, so far from what I've read, and once again, I haven't dived through everything. So far from what I've read, he hasn't done anything that's considered illegal. But that is still something where I draw a line. That's disgusting. It's gross. A minor's a minor. The same thing if they were to be like, fucking in Japan, like the age of consent is 12. That's fucking gross. It's disgusting. I don't care. I literally do not care. Like, I draw the line on that. So, he might not have done anything illegal. Good for you. Whatever. But to me, that's still gross. I don't care if that's illegal or not. Yeah, no. Not on that train, bro. Sorry. I might have watched one of your specials at this point. Not on that train, my guy. I'll put it this way. For me, if he's on a podcast, I won't necessarily turn it off, but it's not like I'm going to his podcast to watch his stuff. So that's the way I look at it.
Has he shown up on anything in the past, like, 2
He's been gone for a while, and the last thing that he did...
pretty much disappeared after this happened.
Yeah, so he did come out with a apologize video to talk about things, and I did watch that in completion because, like I said, I wanted to hear what he had to say about the situations first and then go look at everything that's being leveled against him. And yeah, it was that, and I think since then he hasn't been on anything that's been like a comedy thing. So, and JoJo seems to be having issues that he's trying to fix.
I'm sorry, my battery.
Okay, got you. But yeah, so he hasn't been on anything with any comedians that I watch now. So
yeah,
I don't think he's getting a special anytime soon.
I was gonna give JoJo shit
since whatever day that got revealed. Like, he just.
That's probably good for him.
Yeah, oh, totally.
Good realization. Like, now is not the time to be deeply engaged with social media.
No.
Yeah, and it's not Louis C.A. where there was such an audience, people loved him so much, like, that there's I don't think anyone's like clamoring for Crystalia to come back.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's a weird situation. I sometimes listening to people digest those things and like their thought process, like Louis C.K. was a very interesting one because it's like what he did was completely disgusting and wrong, but he also never sexually touched somebody. So, but standing in front of a door and being like, "Hey, I think you're hot. I'd like to jack off to you," and then proceeding to do so, regardless of what the answer was, is very fucked up and very weird thing to fucking do.
Right? Yeah, it wasn't.
So, I mean, I personally was never a Louis C.K. fan, so didn't really care anyway. I was like, all right, cool, fucking, he's gone, so fucking dirtbag. But it's like same thing with like the Cosby shit. Like, I mean, that's a completely different comparison for sure. But fucking, see ya. Like,
and that one was a huge bump. I mean, just that's so divorced from his whole image.
Oh, for sure.
Nice, that just ruined him in so many people's minds. Rightfully ruined him.
Rightfully,
nice
absolutely.
For people, and that's like,
dude was a fucking monster.
He's awful.
Yeah, awful fucking person. Dude was a fucking monster. So yeah, fuck off. But yeah, so like I said, I definitely wanted to bring that up to kind of clarify that a little bit. But with that being said, got a little spice that we're gonna talk about. A little bit of spice. All right. Good old cancel culture is rearing its head again, and it is kind of been interesting to see it basically cannibalize itself. And the way I'm going to explain this will kind of show exactly what I'm talking about. So, I'm going to lean a little heavy on CNN here, but I want to say before I do, Fox Network does this shit all the time. But because of the specific persons being talked about, it's a little bit more CNN heavy than it is Fox heavy. They're basically the same. Anybody that watches Fox, you're basically watching the right side of CNN. It's the fucking same thing. Anyways, that being said. So, Joe Rogan has become their newest target to take down. and they tried to do we had the COVID misinformation where Neil Young wanted to pull, or not wanted, did pull his music from Spotify. That was a big thing. I don't know if everybody's up to speed on that one, but that was a thing that happened. Some other songwriters have come through and done the same thing as well. Personally, as a Joe Rogan fan, I understand where situations come from, and I feel like the demands that they made were insignificant to the point where they wouldn't jeopardize anything that he does. With him coming out and also saying that those demands were completely okay and was completely willing to move forward with them, I don't see an issue with that. I personally didn't think that he was spreading COVID misinformation. I do think that there were potential guests that might have been doing that and what their beliefs were. And I do think he did a very good job of having people who talk from both sides come on. That's just my opinion. The one demand that they wanted that I thought was kind of ridiculous was that if he had somebody who came on and thought that vaccines were a joke, that the next episode he had to bring on somebody who thought vaccines were for real. And it's like, that's kind of
you
like
wanted to marry them.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's like, you're kind of telling somebody how to do their show. And like, let's be honest, Joe Rogan at this point, how big his platform is, like, it's like he said one time, I know I was watching an episode where Alex Jones was on. Yes, I know, Alex Jones. But he was like, Alex Jones was like, oh, I want to be on for this. And Joe Rogan was like, you don't understand the amount of people who are constantly trying to get onto this podcast. Like, I can't just like cut shit and be like, oh yeah, you're getting, like, the list is very fucking long, which obviously is at this fucking point. So to try to do that, I think is kind of ridiculous. I do think having the disclaimer as far as like, these are people's opinions, which people should know that regardless, but regardless, I don't see a problem with having that disclaimer of like, these are people's opinions. Obviously, you should do your own research, figure out, you know, what is good for you. And once again, anybody that's watching our podcast, same thing. We're all here to laugh, have fun. Most of this is supposed to be comedy related. Like, this is opinions. Like, I hear this a lot on one of my podcasts I watch, and it's a perfect example. A lot of this shit that we do is feelings, not facts. Like, it's just feelings, not facts. We're here to have fun, have a good time, and bullshit with each other. Like, this is like our high point of the week where we get to connect. And we do a little bit of catch up before we start recording, and now it's like, all right, let's fucking make each other laugh, and then just fucking do dumb shit. So, that being said,
Joe Rogan has run to a thing now where like when he talks to whatever COVID scientist, anti-vaccine guy, is any of that ever funny? Like, it's at some point, is he actually making a comedic product?
I was more talking about ourselves, but I will say, whenever you have he doesn't bring people on to talk about a specific thing, right? I think Joe Rogan's been very open and very transparent about the fact of like, these are things that you like, these are things that you want to talk about, I'm here to learn. And what I do appreciate what Joe Rogan does is that anything that is said, regardless if it's something that he agrees with or not, he immediately has Jamie bring up like different reports on it. And it's like, okay, this is where my issue is with like the whole Neil Young walkout and all these people who are protesting it. This is where my problem comes into play with this. Once again, like I said, I'm completely fine with the disclaimers and all that. It is what it is. I mean, once again, this is my opinion. The specific episode they're talking about, he's talking about the fact that the vaccine could potentially give you something. Once again, go do your own homework. I'm going to be vague about this because I don't need fucking YouTube taking my shit down for fucking COVID vaccine or whatever. But specifically gives you something. And he said he heard it from a doctor and read it from an article. And he goes, I don't know how out of date the article is. And then the person he's talking to is for vaccines. And they're like, oh, well, that is true to an extent, but the actual percentage is actually way different than the article that you're reading from. So Joe Rogan goes, okay, well, I'm going to have to check in on that. That's the one episode that everybody's upset about. They're like, you're spreading misinformation. In that exact same podcast, minutes later, Joe Rogan pulls up the article he was talking about, says the numbers that he said, and then pulls up 5 articles that agree with the person on the other side of the table. And Joe Rogan goes, learn something new.
Sure.
Like, it's not misinformation whenever you're literally doing what you should be doing. And if you're going to say something, it's like the Crystalia shit. If I'm going to talk out of my ass, I want to have my information. Joe Rogan read an article, thought that that was the right thing, was told by somebody, these articles are non-biased. You should look up these articles. He did on screen and read out the information out loud. And said, learned something new. I guess I was wrong. Literally said, guess I was wrong. Like, I don't know how much more of like a fucking devil we can turn him into with the whole COVID misinformation bullshit whenever it's like, It's not like he's like, fucking vaccines are bad for you, don't take them. Like, he hasn't once said that. So, everybody's got their own opinions. It is what it is. But here's where it's interesting. So, we have the vaccine misinformation comes out. And nothing happens. He doesn't get taken off Spotify. Spotify stands behind Joe Rogan, and the music makers that wanted their music taken off, they granted them that wish, and their music is off the platform. I feel like CNN at this point is bored now that Trump is gone. Like, I feel like they went so hardcore on Trump. I mean, he was like all over the news for CNN forever. And in return,
everyone's news,
sure, for sure, absolutely. But as he's all over CNN's news, then CNN is all over Fox's news. So that it literally was just a cycle that just kept eating itself over
so it's a
and
snake
over.
eating its own tail.
Exactly, 100%. Like I said, I'm not playing favorites here. In my opinion, they're both terrible sources of media, but that's because that's the way I look at it. You should do your own homework. Both very terrible. The news is as far from the fucking facts of what they do anymore, in my opinion. But that being said, and that's both. So I feel like CNN is bored at this point, and I feel like Joe Rogan I feel Joe Rogan poses a huge threat to all media at this point. He has such a gigantic platform and such a huge following of people who watch him every single I mean, the dude's making like 6 to 8 podcasts a week. I mean, they're literally coming out every fucking day. Like, at this point, I mean, as soon as he released the podcast, you're already in the millions of views within the first minutes of it being out. Like, he reaches such a huge base of people on all different walks of life because of how diverse his fucking cast is. Like, there's literally anybody that wants to come on that has interesting shit they want to talk about. I mean, I want to fucking hear about Scientology. I could pull up fucking 3 podcasts about Scientology. I want to hear about fucking Bohemian Grove. I could pull up fucking 3 podcasts about that. I want to hear about fucking hardcore Christian shit. I could pull up 3. I mean, he hits everything. Fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson. I can hear all about the fucking stars and everything else. Whatever I want, it's there. It's insane that. I mean, if you would have told me fucking 20 years ago that's what Joe Rogan was going to be doing after Fear Factor, I would have been like, okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that he poses such a threat that I think he is the new mark for CNN now at this point. I really honestly do. And the reason why I say this is because he gets roped in with a lot of quote unquote right-wing shit. And the reason why he does is because Fox attempts to do with the same thing they did with Trump, obviously, because he was a Republican, is let's have CNN slander something, and then Fox play the hero, I should say, and try to make him look better. And I feel like he's become that new target. So this is where my issue is with the newest thing that's coming out. And we're going to get to where I feel the cancel culture is slowly starting to eat itself, and it's fucking hilarious to me. But now we have the N-word video that has come out. And I've listened to a lot of different people talk about this, and there's a lot of views I agree with on this where context does make a lot of sense. If you're talking about something historic, once again, I don't say the word. I don't feel like there really is a good context to say it in, but if you're talking about historics, the word happened, it was created, it was used, and it's something that we need to remember that it was used for a bad thing. It was used to completely make an entire section of people feel like shit. Like, that's literally what the word was created for.
Yeah.
Where it is damning for him. So the N-word thing, I don't really care that much about. I know there's a lot of people who are standing up for him right now. And all different kinds of races are all like, Joe is a good guy, da-da-da-da-da, he's not a racist. Is the Planet of the Apes thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking bad. That is pretty fucking bad.
Sorry, what the fuck was said?
I want to.
I can Google it if you don't wanna.
I'm fine.
Like, he went into a movie theater and looked around. And is like, wow, there's no white people here. It's like the Planet of the Apes or something like that.
He was on a podcast with 3 other people.
Dude.
Now, the way this thing is being made out the way this thing is being made out to say, I do want to do some corrections here. Once again, I'm not trying to advocate for this because I feel that was a very fucked up thing to say. He was on a podcast with 3 other people. Everybody says he's on the podcast with nothing but white people, so they were talking white and making fun of black people. Literally only one other person was white on there. The other people were definitely not white. Joey Diaz is not a white guy. But, that being said, moving forward, not the main point here. His exact words were, once again, Joe Rogan's words. Joe, I want to fucking make that clear for all the fucking internet fucking ears out there. Joe Rogan's words.
I will immediately edit this video after it's released and just take that clip of whatever you're about to say.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. That they wanted to go see Planet of the Apes midnight release, and the normal movie theaters they go to were sold out. They end up going to this one movie theater, and they had never been there before, and they found out driving into the movie theater that it was in the hood. And he literally said it was like we walked into Planet of the Apes. Pretty damning. It's not good. It's not good. Now, here's where the situation is with cancel culture. So at this point, everybody's saying Joe Rogan should lose his podcast, should lose his job, absolutely should not be able to work in entertainment whatsoever anymore because of what he said. The clip is from 15 years ago. I feel at some point, and this is so I don't know if you know who Preach and Abba are, but they're two Canadian comics who are also African American, and they were given talk about it because I've seen some of their stand up. They're actually really fucking funny guys. I love it whenever they put their full Canadian voice on. It's fucking hilarious. But that being said, they had Preach specifically had something I thought was very interesting and was like within the last 2 to 3 years, I think it's safe that we can all agree that we judge things differently now. Things are judged under a different microscope, da-da-da-da-da. If we go to pull something from 14 years ago, everybody's getting canceled. He's all like, the important part is for Joe to come out, which he already has, and say, that was a dumb joke. I shouldn't have made the joke. It was stupid. It's not a joke that I would make today. It was a joke that I thought would get laughs and thought I'd get a lot of things. That doesn't make it funny. It's not funny. And that's not something you would ever hear me say again. He's like, that's what we should be looking at. He's like, people who are wanting to ruin someone's entire career off of one bad joke, all comedians would be out of jobs. Everybody would be out of jobs. Somebody has made a bad joke at some point in time, whether it's race related, disabled related, national fucking tragedy related, 9/11, AIDS, da-da-da-da-da, whatever. He's like, things are judged under a different microscope now. And I think it's very important to understand that, because if we don't look at that as an understanding, we're not giving people room to be a better person. We're all going to do dumb shit when we're younger. We're all going to do dumb shit to potentially try to get famous. It's how we move forward from there, which is how we become different people. I thought that was a very interesting take. Because it's true. Within the last 3 to 4 years, cancel culture has become a fucking thing. And it's very easy to go back on somebody's Twitter and start fucking, hey, da-da-da-da-da, this person needs... I mean, we saw it with James Gunn, with the whole fucking pedophile jokes that he was making. Bam, got pulled from Disney. So, and everybody stood up for him, and then he got back into Disney. It's how... It's a weird situation. So, if Joe would have come out, stood by the joke, yeah, that's a whole different thing, because it was a fucked up joke. It absolutely 100% was a fucked up joke. Once again, Joe Rogan's joke, not my joke. Want to make that very clear. But that being said, having the... There's a certain aspect, in my opinion, that you can respect of someone who is going to actually be like, you know what? Hey, I fucked up. If he would have came out and said, hey, I made a joke. It wasn't that funny. No one should talk that way anymore. And then that was it. That would have been it. And I would have been like, I don't really feel like that's sincere. It was like a 20-minute video of like why it's not okay to say those jokes. And the fact of like, I would never have done it. He's like, you can go back and look at all my comedy specials. He's like, I got tons. He's like, I literally do podcasts for a living. Go back through all my podcasts. I don't make those kind of jokes. It's not something that I do. It was a different point in my life. It wasn't something that was on my mind. The world was in a completely different place. It doesn't make it okay. What I did was still wrong, and it was completely terrible, and I apologize for that. So at some point, being able to take your mistake and move forward, I think, is very important. So, like I said, I give him that. Now, where the cancel culture is starting to eat itself, I don't know. I know you've watched, is it Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings or the Powerful Rings? 10 Rings?
10 Rings.
10 Rings. And you've watched it, JoJo?
Not yet.
Okay, you might know who I'm talking about. Awkwafina. She plays the main female.
Familiar.
Right. Cancel culture is now after her. Because outside of that movie, and maybe even in that movie, I don't know, I've watched the movie yet, but she talks with what they quote unquote call a black accent.
So not in that movie. That's part of the criticism of her. I don't know if this is right or wrong or whatever, but in all her comedic stuff, all her like stand up, whatever it is she does, she speaks with that accent. And then anytime she's acting in a movie, she suddenly has a voice that's not like that.
Right.
Which plays into like people asking, is that really how she talks? Like that, because that's her defense of it. Like, I'm from Brooklyn.
Right.
It's like, oh.
Right. So this is where, to me, and it will be interesting to get your guys' opinion on this as well, and then I can open the floor up for your guys' thoughts here, because this is pretty much the end of the story. is with her. What I find interesting is that so it's one thing for somebody to do something for the entirety of their life, their entirety of their career, and we can actually backdate that and show that, yeah, she has talked like that through the entirety of her career. This is what's interesting to me. So, one, calling her racist, I think, is a tad bit too far. But two, the fact that they say she's appropriating black culture. But then at the same time, it's like, what should she sound like? Because if she says she was born and raised in Queens, this is what she was raised around, this is how she developed to talk. Because it's like, if you go down south, you live down south long enough, you're going to fucking possibly get a southern accent. You live in another country, you might possibly pick up another accent. Are you appropriating that culture at that point? So,
no.
Are you telling her because she's Asian, she should be speaking Asian? Because then at that point, aren't you appropriating her culture on what she believes her culture is?
No, you're not appropriating. You're projecting.
Or projecting.
And deciding this is what you are going to be, and that you exist in this box and you don't exist outside this box, and this box is defined by your race, which is inappropriate.
I imagine you would find a lot of people in Queens who are not black who do not sound anything like Awkwafina sounds.
Potentially.
Makes it. She seems to do it on purpose. Whatever. I don't know that she can't do that. Like, I don't really know that she's wrong or what, but like, I think she's putting it on. You know, like it's a character she has.
It very well could be. I will say this: I don't know enough about her for that. I have done some research on her and just to look up like things that have gone on. So I know me and you are pretty much on the same page as far as the knowledge for her. It is a very interesting topic though, because if that is how she talks and people are all like, "You can't do that. You need to sound like this," that is, in my opinion, like I don't know how people who run this whole like let's get her canceled situation doesn't see how that's wrong. With how exactly Kelsey just described it, with that's putting her in a box and being like, because of your race, this is what you should sound like. Like that, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. Because once again, if that's how she grew up, that's how she grew up, and if that's the accent that she clung to, that's what she. I mean, people cleaned it. I don't have anywhere near as much of Southern twang as I used to when I first came up here. I was fucking Southern as all fucking get out when I came up here. And I've adapted to an accent. This is how I talk now. I have my little things here and there that I still fuck up on, like done did it and shit like that, or saying y'all or ain't. But some things you can't kind of get out, or ma'am and sir. Like I can't get that out. And you know, that's something that I've struggled with being up here, is that down south, that's manners. Like you say yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. Or it is a slap to the back of the head. Up here, it's an insult. Because if I call you ma'am, I'm saying you're old. If I call you sir, I'm saying you're old. So it's an insult. People don't like it whenever I say that. And it has nothing to do with age, but I grew up that way. That's how I grew up. And it's so hard to try to get that out of my head, especially when I'm meeting new people for the first time who don't know me and know that, you know, I'm from the South and that's kind of how I talk. And then whenever I, you know, get relaxed around people I do know, I can't help it. It just fucking comes out. I've called Kelsey ma'am multiple fucking times.
No. And I do think there's one thing that we at least are not acknowledging in this conversation, and it may be part of the larger ongoing conversation. But when she's acting for a movie, if the accent disappears, she's under direction from a director.
Yes.
And the director, she is playing a character, and that character has a different experience than she as a person has. Right. And so, it went away in this movie. Yes. She's acting. Yeah. That's how it works.
Isn't she also just a girl who lives in New York?
So in Shang-Chi, she is
from Secret China, like from like a secret town or something.
I think she's a girl that's from. I think she's a girl from New York. I think.
Yeah.
So and then, sorry, I was thinking Raya and the Last Dragon, where she is a dragon, and so there's like, I was getting those a little bit confused.
Then it gets weird. Like, hey, why if she's basically playing a character with her own origin, are they like, do a different voice?
But once again, that's still director on that point. That's still not her.
Like, is it? Is she auditioning? What is this other? It's very odd for a person from New York to then have a different non-New York voice they audition for a role to be a person from New York. Like, it would be weird for Robert De Niro to audition for a role as a New Yorker with a voice that isn't his normal voice.
I mean, I agree, but at the same time, are you gonna turn down Marvel money? Probably not.
No. I mean, but like it predates that, I think, too. Like it's every movie. I think not every, maybe. I don't know what she sounds like in Ocean's 9 ever.
I don't know. I just think it's very interesting. It's a hot topic right now, and I think it's a very interesting topic, and it's kind of interesting to see how this whole thing is going to unfold. Because if she is faking an accent, like, yes, that is absolutely fucked up. Like, why? Why even do that? But if it's just comfortable for her and that's how she talks because that's who she was raised around. And once again, when I say who, I'm talking about other people in Queens. I'm not talking about a specific race. I'm just talking about people in Queens. Like I said, growing up down south, it's not like all white people have a southern twang. It's just not how it happens. It's where you're grown, the people you hang around, you sometimes pick up an accent. I don't know how her parents talk. That would be interesting to see that situation because usually you get a lot of the stuff you say from your parents. So that would also be an interesting situation as well.
But they do not sound like her. I
don't know. I have no clue.
Probably because they're not from Queens originally. Also,
potentially.
Not. But I want to see like hidden camera footage of her just speaking to people in a conversation as Nora, not as Aquafina.
I also think one of the things that we're ignoring is something that I've kind of like hit on a bunch of times, which is anybody that you know that's famous and you know them for being famous, like the famous persona is a persona. It is a very carefully curated, intentional act that is being done. And if this is part of her carefully curated, intentional act as Aquafina, which is a person, like, which is a character that is her public character, like, I don't give a shit. Like, if that's part of that and it makes her feel like more confident or sassy or like more capable of being that character when she needs to be in whatever context, fine. Now, I do have an issue when you start having some of those like intentionally appropriating, which is I'm pulling this piece of a culture, I'm pulling it out, I'm ignoring what made that piece exist in the first place, and I'm using it in a way that is shallow and self-aggrandizing while separating myself from the rest of the culture and the rest of like what makes this piece fit. That is complicated, and I'm not saying you get to just like appropriate to create your persona and move on. I'm not supporting that by any means, but I am saying that Aquafina is a character, and that character has pieces.
That's very interesting way to look at that. Yeah, I've actually not looked at it that way before because I see what you're saying. Like, if Aquafina is her overall character and Aquafina, the person, has that accent, I mean, I can kind of see where both can be played off of that, though, because I get 100% what you're saying, but then I kind of see where the cancel culture aspect of it would be where it's like, but she doesn't have to talk like that. She's choosing to have a black accent, even though she's not black, and is that appropriating a culture, and is that insulting to that culture?
Right, yeah, because also Aquafina is ostensibly a comedic rap artist, originally. Is the joke at the expense of black people? Is the joke, oh, haha, isn't how they talk, isn't this so funny that I sound like this?
Which, if, like, I think you can be anywhere on that spectrum of, like, this is a tool that she uses as part of her character, or this is actually who she is as a person, or this is a joke and she's telling this joke at the expense of black people. Like, that whole spectrum exists and you can be anywhere on it with your opinion. And I'm not actually going to try to tell anybody that they're wrong in their opinion.
Right.
I'm just saying it may not be super black and white, and it may not be super easy for, I'm going to just speak for myself. It's not easy for me to walk in and clearly see, like, this is the elements that are wrong and this is the elements that are right, and therefore, like, these scales balance more this way or this way. I have a hard time walking in and understanding that. So I don't know. I basically said, hey, I don't know. That's,
and I think all three of us don't have enough point of reference.
Yeah, for sure.
Her actual work.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Like, I don't know what she actually, anything that she's done, like, when she's being Aquafina. I've never heard a song of hers. Like, I only know of her as the actor.
I know her as the comedian, so that's where I know her from. But I will say, I mean, even without the, once again, feelings, no facts here. Not trying to copy Flagrant 2 on that one, but feelings, no facts here, obviously, guys. But that is an interesting point. I've never looked at it that way. So that is a super interesting point that you just pointed out, because everybody that I've listened to, I don't think anybody's talked about that as her persona and like how that's viewed, even just from people in the standpoint of other comics or other, music artists and stuff like that. So that's an interesting way to look at that, because it's always just been like whether or not that's where she's from, or if it's not where she's from, you know, is it still right to tell her da 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 da, or are you appropriating her culture for her, or, you know, putting her in that box, as you said? So yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at that. Wow. Nice, Kelsey. You got me on a good one on that one. I didn't even think about it that way. That's interesting.
This is why I show up, everybody.
Huh. Okay. Well, as much as this conversation is great, we got to cut it because we are definitely past time at this point. So we're going to go ahead and cut it here, which sucks because the last section, oh God. Anyways, we'll talk about it next podcast.
Hold on to it for a week.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next podcast. Anyways, that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this podcast up. If you guys enjoy this content, make sure you like, subscribe, also comment down below. Hit us in that section and let us know your thoughts. But make sure to share us around because that is the best way you could support us. On top of all that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next time.